My name is Daniel Collins, and I used to be a seasonal ranger at Blackwood Ridge National Park. I've worked in plenty of forests, but nothing ever followed me home until the summer of 2021. This story isn't exaggerated, and it isn't embellished. And even now, months later, I still don't understand what I encountered. I only know I wasn't supposed to see it. I arrived at Blackwood Ridge in early June. First day on the job, my supervisor handed me the keys to a small cabin and a 2-page list of trail camera locations. My job was simple: hike the routes every morning, check the cameras, and report anything unusual. Broken branches, illegal campsites, animals acting strange. Typical ranger work. Except that summer the forest felt different, too quiet, too still. During my first week on patrol, I found the remains of a campsite a half-mile off-trail. The fire pit was cold. The tent was shredded, not torn like a bear got into it. Shredded the way fabric looks when it's pulled apart from the inside. I radioed it in and flagged the spot for cleanup. My supervisor didn't seem surprised. He just told me, "Don't wander off trail again unless I give the go-ahead." I didn't think much of it at the time. The next morning I checked a trail camera near the West Ridge. The housing was cracked straight down the middle, like someone had twisted it until the plastic gave. The SD card was missing entirely. I wrote it up and kept moving. That night I noticed something strange. At around 2 a.m. I woke up to the sound of footsteps outside my cabin. Slow, steady steps, heavy, too deliberate to be a deer, too slow to be a bear. I grabbed my flashlight and stood by the window, waiting for whatever it was to walk into the light. It never did. Instead, the footsteps stopped directly beside the cabin's back wall. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. Then something began dragging along the siding. A slow, deliberate stroke like a claw or a stick being pulled from one end of the wall to the other. I felt the vibration through the inside paneling. I nearly called it in, but something in me said not to. Eventually the sound faded, and I must have fallen asleep sitting against the wall, flashlight still in my hand. The next day, I walked the perimeter looking for prints. I expected nothing, but I found something, a single footprint in the dirt behind the cabin. Humanoid, but elongated, narrow heel, long toes, no arch. It was deep, meaning whatever made it was extremely heavy. I reported everything except the footprint. I knew how that would sound. By the time I started my second week, the forest felt wrong. The trees looked normal, the air was normal, but everything else felt like it was waiting. I can't describe it better than that. Like the woods themselves were holding their breath. On Wednesday, as I was checking the North Trail cameras, I saw a man about 50 yards off trail. At first I thought he was a lost hiker. He was tall, thin, wearing a brown jacket, and standing completely still. I called out to him. He didn't react. Not even a flinch. I waved. Nothing. So I started walking toward him. That was when he turned. He didn't turn like a person turns. It was too fast, too abrupt. His head snapped toward me in a single movement, and his face didn't look right. Even from a distance I could tell. The eyes were too far apart. The mouth was too wide, as if he was trying to smile but didn't understand how. I took one step back. He mirrored me, taking one step forward, but not toward me, directly toward the nearest tree, and then he simply stepped behind it. I ran the rest of the trail. I didn't stop until I reached the main road. I convinced myself it was just some guy messing with me, but that explanation didn't settle the unease in my stomach. That night, just before midnight, someone knocked on my cabin door. 3 slow knocks. I froze. No ranger knocks like that. They call your radio first. They identify themselves. No one just shows up. The knocks came again, same rhythm. I approached as quietly as I could and looked through the peephole. No one was there. I backed away and grabbed my flashlight again, heart pounding. A full minute passed before the knocks came a third time, this time from the back of the cabin. I didn't sleep at all after that. The next morning, I made a choice that in hindsight was a terrible one. I decided to go back to the pine clearing where several trail cameras had stopped transmitting. Something kept pulling me there. Curiosity, fear, maybe duty. I don't know. The trail leading to the clearing looked normal, but halfway there, the forest went dead silent. Not quiet, silent, no wind, no insects, no birds. It lasted maybe 10 seconds before sound faded back in, like someone slowly raising a volume slider. I reached the clearing around noon. A perfect circle of towering pines, all blackened and scarred as if a fire had raged through centuries ago. Except no fire had touched that area in recorded history. I found the destroyed trail cameras scattered near a rotted log. They weren't just broken. They were twisted like wire, the metal bent into unnatural shapes. Deep, evenly spaced claw marks were etched into the plastic, too large for a mountain lion, too precise for a bear. The smell hit me next. Rotting meat, wet fur, and something chemical and sweet. The odor was so strong I gagged, and then I heard a branch crack behind me. I turned. Something slipped between the trees. Tall, pale, long arms, moving not like a person, not like an animal, but like something imitating both and getting neither right. I blinked, and the figure was gone. On the ground near where it stood was another footprint. Long, narrow, humanoid, freshly pressed into the earth. My hand shook as I lifted my radio to call it in. Before I could speak, my supervisor's voice crackled through, but it wasn't right. It was distorted, stretched, glitching. "Collins, come back to station." I tried to answer, but the radio cut to static. Then behind me, the same voice came again. Only it wasn't through the radio. It was whispered directly into my left ear. "Come back." I spun around and nearly fell backward. The creature was leaning halfway out from behind a tree, studying me with that same tilted, too wide face. Its mouth opened slowly, far wider than any human jaw should. And then it spoke again, mimicking my supervisor's voice almost perfectly. "Collins!" Then it shifted. Its posture changed. Its head tilted. It opened its mouth again and repeated a new word. My name, in my own voice. "Daniel." I ran. I don't remember my feet hitting the ground. Branches whipped past me. That scraping sound followed me the whole way, claws trailing lightly along bark as it moved from tree to tree. I didn't dare look back. My cabin came into view, and I sprinted harder than I ever have in my life. I slammed the door shut, locked it, and shoved furniture against it. Outside, something dragged its claws along the siding again. Slow. Intentional. Curious. Hours passed before the sound stopped. By morning, everything appeared normal. No scratches, no footprints, no sign anything had been outside. My radio worked fine again. The forest sounded alive and safe. I packed everything I owned and left Blackwood Ridge before noon. I didn't tell anyone what happened. Not then. But last week, months after I quit, I got a voicemail from an unknown number. The message was warped, glitching, almost unintelligible. But one phrase came through clearly. My name, spoken in my own voice, repeated 3 times. "Daniel, Daniel, Daniel." And beneath it, faint but unmistakable, was the sound of claws dragging slowly across wood. Just like the night at the cabin. I haven't gone near a forest since, and I don't think I ever will again. Because whatever I saw that summer didn't stay in Blackwood Ridge. It followed me home. And deep down, in the pit of my stomach, I know the truth. I didn't leave those pines. They left with me.